Here we go, examples 2 and 3 for section 3.8. Factor if possible, write DNF if not possible. DNF means does not factor. So I look at A, 8x squared minus 9. Well, now I see I have a binomial, two terms, 1, 2. So I might start to be thinking, well, this could be difference of squares. Are they separated by a minus sign? Subtraction? Yes. So I've met one characteristic. Is this 9 a perfect square? Yes, I've met the second characteristic. I look at the first term, 8x squared. Is this a perfect square? No, it's not. Actually, I'm not going to write x because that's confusing. This does not work. I'm going to write no, does not work. So I haven't met those characteristics. So at this point, I simply say does not factor. And I'm done. Question B, g squared plus 4. Look at my characteristics. Is this a perfect square? G squared? Yes. Is 4 a perfect square? Yes. Are they separated by a minus sign? No. Does, whoops, that's a bad D. Does not factor. Done. Okay, so it has to be perfect square terms, both terms, and it has to be separated by a minus sign. Now, of course, whenever you're looking at any of these factoring questions, and I know I'll tell you in class 2, but make sure that you always look for a greatest common factor first. Pull out that greatest common factor and then see what you have left. After that, well, it'll make things easier because then you're dealing with smaller numbers. It's easier to see some of the patterns. Example 3, factor fully. Now this is a key kind of word, factor fully. This is going to make you think, well, maybe this just isn't a one-step question. So you should be thinking, if it gives you some kind of explanation or some kind of question that says, that implies that there's a lot of work to do, that you might have to do more than just one step. So let's look at this. X to the power of 8 minus 256. Well, are they separated by a minus sign? Yes. Is this a perfect square, 256? Yes. Is x to the power 8 a perfect square? Yes, it is. Now, if I took the square root of x to the power of 8, that's going to become x to the power of 4. If I took the square root of 256, I'm going to get 16. 16. Remember, I get two brackets, one being plus, one being minus. Okay. Now, don't stop there though. Be very, very careful. I have to now look at these binomial brackets and think again, the same thing. Can I factor what's left over? Is this a perfect square? Sure. Is this a perfect square? Sure. Separated by a minus sign? No. So this first part is not factorable again. Look at the second one. Is x to the 4th a perfect square? Yeah. Is 16 a perfect square? Yeah. Separated by a minus sign? Yeah. So I've met all three conditions here now. So now I know that this second term is actually going to factor again. Well, what's the square root of x to the 4th? Let's pick a color, red. Square root of x to the 4th is going to be x squared. Square root of 16 is going to be 4. 1 is going to be plus. 1 is going to be minus. But again, don't forget, and I'm sure I've said this somewhere at some point, don't forget the things that you've factored out already. You can't just arbitrarily forget them or leave them out. They are factors. They have to be written there. X to the 4th. And I believe that said no. So I have one term, non-factorable. This term also non-factorable because it's separated by a positive sign, although both x squared and 4 are perfect squares. But x squared minus 4, well, this thing over here, this is factorable again because this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square, and separated by a minus sign. Well, what does that factor out to? And I'll switch back to blue now. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2. 1's going to be plus. 1's going to be minus. But don't forget all of the other factors that I've taken out before. Multiple step factoring question. That takes us to the end of section 3.8. Your assignment's noted at the bottom of the page. I'm sure there's probably going to be some extra worksheets, some review sheets, some chapter review questions. But that takes us to the end of chapter 3. A few days for getting caught up, some review, making sure that we fully understand this, because this is a really important concept to understand for those of you traveling on to pre-calculus and calculus, or pre-calculus 11 and then 12 and then calculus, because factoring is really, really important. Okay, that's the end of chapter 3.